Good morning, everybody. Okay, let's all stand, and we're going to acknowledge that spring is here. So the first hymn we are changing to 73, Chant for the Seasons, and it is in the column that says Spring. So the lyrics are, winter rains have turned the star wheel. I'm giving you time to get your hymnal. Winter rains have turned the star wheel, springtime is upon us. Sharp the smell of I always mess this up. They bloom, bursting in our eyes, the tulips of the tulip. Winter rains have turned the star wheel, springtime is upon us. Greening is the grass, soft upon our brows, the sunlight, warm caresses. Winter rains have turned the star wheel, springtime is upon us.
Springtime is upon us. Look what just landed on the pulpit here. Colorful. Peggy, would you like to take and pass these around? I want everyone to take an egg, and if you don't get an egg out of this bag, which you won't, there are lots of these eggs around today, right?
There's hundreds.
Hundreds of eggs. We want you to take more than one egg and fill them with candy so that the kids can have a nice Easter egg hunt, or treats or coins, $100 bills, whatever you want. And that way, during our annual egg hunt on Easter Sunday the 5th, I think April 5th, they will be able to benefit from your kindness and your generosity and your forethought. So the other eggs are in the back. I see, yeah, there's hundreds of them. So if you don't get one, and if you only get one, take many, and please fill as many eggs as you would be so kind to do. Anyway, I got ahead of myself. Welcome everyone to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where we join together as always to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. All right, so just a big blanket, everybody's welcome. Good to have you today. Because I have some things to say before we get into the service. One, if you have been coming for a while and are interested in finding out about how to become a member or become a member, just let me or somebody else know. Sonny right there is a good person to talk to as well. But there are these become a member, new become a member brochures that are on the, where are they? There aren't very many left. People have been gathering them up. All right, so anyway, we'll get some more of these printed, but if you've been interested, we'd love to have you as a formal member. And if you're streaming in your local and want to come in and sign the book, if you're one of our many distant members or distant viewers who aren't in the Spokane area, you can also become a member. Just let us know and we can add your name by proxy. So we'll talk to you more about the church, of course, and what it means to be a member. So thank you for that. If you haven't heard, there is a strategic planning team that is now working on, I think what will be the fourth strategic plan since I've been here. Sometimes people get a little anxious when they hear there's strategic planning going on and they don't know anything about it and nobody asks them what they want. So please know that the team will be reaching out to you through a variety of means, surveys and whatnot, opportunity conversations to talk about the future of our church and put together a plan that comes from all of us. Okay, you'll notice I'm wearing this robe again. second Sunday in a row. And this is partially because last week people said, you need to find reasons to wear that robe occasion. So I put down a bunch of reasons, and it turns out today is a good reason for several reasons. First reason, I was told by many people who came up to me last week, you look really good in that robe. Several said I look like Dracula, and I'm okay with that too. Another reason is a very nice gift. I'm so appreciative of our friends in Felshiracos for giving me this traditional Transylvanian robe of the Unitarian ministers there. I am a Unitarian. I love the history. I love the rootedness in the ancient tradition that goes back to the 16th century. And so in some ways, receiving this robe feels like another ordination to me. I mean, it just really, really special to me. So I want to wear it often in gratitude to them. Also because it does root me in, as it was announced last week when it was given to me, it's a very heavy robe. It sort of pulls you towards the earth. Even the lines on it look like it's pulling you towards the earth, which is great because it pulls me towards the roots of our religion. And so I will wear it often when I'm doing sermons around our history and our values, the things that make us Unitarians, and as well as other special occasions in our church. So you'll see me in it a lot more. This week I received an email, it's I think an email that goes out to all people who are members of churches that are part of the UUA. So it didn't send to me specifically, but it began with a statement from the UUA president, who, by the way, was not elected but was appointed, violating the bylaws of the UUA. So I don't want you to forget that. The UUA is acting as much like the Trump administration as Trump in many ways, but without going into that any further. It started off by saying, our historic religion continues to evolve. So without reading further, I replied and said, I doubt if you will read this, and even if you do, you will reply to me. But that is pure euphemistic BS. What you have done, you have captured a religion that you do not believe in, that you hate. And you have severed it from its historic roots. Okay? So, the previous robe I have, as I said last week, is one that we wear mainly ceremonially in clergy events, maybe an ordination, a parade, those sort of things at the annual meetings, but seldom for most of us in our churches. I would have no reason to wear my robe, this one or my traditional U.S. robe, ever again, because I've been excommunicated from the fellowship of Unitarian ministers because I have stood up for the values and our history that they have euphemistically abandoned as part of our evolution. And so I need to find reasons to wear this. So that's a big part of it. Today, in fact, I'll be speaking of, I'm be offering a sermon by John Dietrich that is about Robert Ingersoll. Okay, so I love to give Dietrich sermons, as you know, because I'm very influenced by his thinking. Well, Dietrich has given several sermons on people that he was influenced by, including Robert Ingersoll. So you'll be learning about Robert Ingersoll through the eyes of John Dietrich, as expressed through the redacted redactions of Todd Eklof. So that's pretty deep. I don't even know if that's going to cause a break in the time-space continuum or what. But I thought that this would be another great reason to wear the robe today, because it really helps connect us to our roots, as does the sermon we'll be in. So if you see me in this a lot, you'll know that it has a lot of meaning and that I'm wearing it for a very special purpose. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Do you want to take some time to greet one another this morning? All right, let's do it. As always, there's more opportunity to visit with one another during our social hour following the service, so please stay around for that. Let's move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
Our opening reflection today comes from another time, and you'll notice language that reflects that time. I've chosen to leave it as it was written, trusting that its deeper invitation still speaks clearly to us today. This morning, as we reflect on the life and thought of Robert Ingersoll, we begin with an invitation from him, an invitation to set aside labels, assumptions, and divisions, and to remember something more fundamental about ourselves. Let us forget that we are Baptists, Methodists, Catholics, Presbyterians, or free thinkers, and remember only that we are men and women. After all, man and woman are the highest possible titles. All other names belittle us and show that we have, to a certain extent, given up our individuality and have consented to wear the collar of authority, that we are followers. Throwing away these names lets us examine these questions not as partisans, but as human beings with hopes and fears in common.
Okay, please stand and let's sing Let There Be Light. One sec. Let there be light. Let there be understanding. Let all the nations gather. Let them be face to face. Open our lips. Open our minds to ponder. Open the door of concord. Opening into grace. Perish the sword. Perish the angry judgment. Perish the bombs and hunger. Perish the fight for gain. Let there be light. Open our hearts to wonder. Perish the way of terror. Hallow the world God made.
We'll now kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our thoughts this morning. I want to begin with a candle on behalf of church member Roger Bosky and his spouse Marianne. Roger underwent heart surgery earlier this week and had some complications that has kept him in the hospital. So I did check in on him yesterday. He seemed to be alert and doing well, but we definitely want to keep them in our thoughts at this time. And also a candle, several candles for the many people around the world suffering from the unnecessary violence and war that are going on in places like Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Palestine and, of course, Iran and that region of the world, people of Darfur, South Sudan. We could go on all morning. People who need our thoughts, or at least deserve our thoughts. And of course, don't want to fail to mention those in our own country, immigrants who are increasingly stressed, including family members of immigrants who are increasingly stressed about what's going to happen to their loved ones. So let's take a moment of silence on behalf of others you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you wish. Those named aloud, those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
There we go. Good morning. During today's Time for All Ages, we would like to introduce you to a friend that we have not yet met in person. And I'm going to invite our young folks just to stay seated where you are because we don't have puppets or any magic tricks. And then we'll sing you out to Children's Chapel.
You've probably heard about mass incarceration. Incarceration means jail. Our country incarcerates more of its own people than any nation in the world. About 2 million people, men and women, fathers and mothers, sons and daughters, youths and elderly, often poor and usually the most wounded members of every community. They're locked away in a disastrous system of mass tombs. They're cut off from the land of the living.
Getting out of prison isn't the hard part. Most incarcerated men and women have a release date. Dark as prisons are, the day they get out is just the start of a much more difficult story.
In the U.S., roughly 700,000 people are released from prison back to our communities every year. But without access to new relationships and opportunities, with many barriers to reentry, most remain in the underground street economy. They eventually get arrested and sucked back into the prison system, disenfranchised and dead to society.
In Washington state, there are roughly the same number of churches as there are folks in prison. What if every church built a solid relationship with just one person releasing to their area and walked with them as they emerged out from the underground of incarceration?
So this is the call that was answered by 8 individuals at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane. Kirsten Grant, Jennifer Calvert, Judy Arms, Susan Tyler Babkirk, Marina Ladich, Cindy Fine, Barb Stubing, and myself, Peggy Eklof.
Or, as we like to say, your OPOP team, one parish, one prisoner, seeking mutual transformation.
This is not a one-way charity, and it's not community service, but an opportunity to experience with our releasing friend the authentic growth and healing that we all need.
Although our reasons for saying yes to this opportunity vary for each individual, including Ashley, our releasing friend, we as a team have committed to the following: to read and participate in monthly learning modules, to gather in monthly team meetings, to write 2 letters or emails or phone calls each month, to build a relationship with Ashley and with each other, and to refer to Ashley by her first name only, and not to Google her because she is not defined by her charges, but is the gift of the relationship.
We, as your OPOP team, will be in communication with you on how we as a congregation can best support this process of mutual transformation. We are not here to save or be saved. We are here to be made different.
Will you now join us in responsive reading 576 in the back of your gray hymnal? It's titled A Litany of Restoration, number 576. I will start us and you will read the italicized part as our respondents. In recognizing the interdependence of all life, we strive to build community. The strength we gather will be our salvation. If you are black and I am white,
It will not matter.
if you are female and I am male,
It will not matter.
if you are older and I am younger,
It will not matter.
if you are progressive and I am conservative,
It will not matter.
If you are straight and I am gay.
It will not matter.
If you are Christian and I am Jewish.
It will not matter.
If we join spirits as brothers and sisters, the pain of our aloneness will be lessened, and that does matter. In this spirit, we build community and move toward restoration. Thank you.
Sermon in there?
All right. As we move now into a time of meditation, you're invited to find a comfortable, receptive position. Close your eyes if you wish. Take a few slower, deeper breaths and reflect on these simple and generous words from Robert Ingersoll. While I am opposed to all Orthodox creeds, I have a creed myself, and my creed is this: happiness is the only good. The time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here. The way to be happy is to make others so.
I see, and bluebirds singing a song, nothing but blue skies from now on. I never saw the sun shining so bright, never saw things going so right, noticing the days hurrying by when you're in love. My, how they fly by. Blue days, all of them gone, nothing but blue skies from now on. nothing but blue skies do I see. In blue days, all of them gone. There's nothing but blue skies from now on.
Wow, that was just beautiful. Thank you again. I think that song was made for your voice, or your voice was made for that song. I don't know, but it's great. Great accompaniment, as always. Yep. And I love the optimism in it. One of the interesting things of both Ingersoll and Dietrich, before I get into the sermon, is their optimism for the future. Of course, Ingersoll was more than a generation before Dietrich. Ingersoll died in 1899. Dietrich died in 1958. But both of them, interestingly, talk a lot in their speeches and sermons about how humanity was finally rising above its superstitious thinking. And yet here we are today, where Pete Hegseth is getting out and asking all of us to get on bended knee and pray to Jesus for our troops. So I don't know what happened, but they were both very optimistic about the future. For those who don't know, John Deitrich was the minister in our church from 1911 and 1916. He became a humanist here and went on to become known as the Father of Religious Humanism and a signer of the Humanist Manifesto, and then, of course, had a very successful ministry speaking on religious humanism at a Unitarian church in Minneapolis. His sermons are usually quite long. In fact, one of the interesting things I think about both Ingersoll and Dietrich is they were very popular speakers. I mean, when Dietrich was here, they had to move to the theater downtown, the Bing Theater, to have 1,000 to 1,200 people attending on Sundays. But if you stop and think about the difference in that era and this era, there was no television, there were no movie houses, there were no radio, and if people wanted to go do something, hearing an interesting lecturer, especially one who said radical things, was a great thing. And I think that's what enabled both Ingersoll and Dietrich to become so popular in their time, something that is very difficult for anybody to do nowadays because there are there's just an abundance of speakers and mediums and opportunities. So they lived at a rare time, in a rare moment, and it's nice to be able to go back and examine some of their thoughts. So this was, again, originally given on November 30th in 1924 by John Dietrich, about somebody who inspired him, Robert Ingersoll, and as a part of a series of sermons on atheist. So yeah, more than 100 years ago. So to begin, in the words of Dietrich. Oh, but I should also say, Dietrich's sermons were very long, like this was a 16-page sermon. Mine are usually 6 pages. So just buckle up. I have amended it dramatically now. The great thing is he had so many redundancies in his sermons as far as illustrations of his points that you can get rid of quite a lot and never lose any of his main points. So I think this will capture what Dietrich had to say about Ingersoll without the torment of staying until 2 o'clock this afternoon. Okay? All that is best in religion is unmistakingly human. while the Orthodox creeds in their icy barrenness are positively inhuman. Against their harsh and really immoral doctrines, the brave and honest thinker rises in revolt. One of the greatest of all rebels against conventional religion, one of the greatest of all defenders of liberty of thought, is the subject of our discourse this morning, Robert G. Ingersoll. He was born in Dresden, New York, August 11th, 1833. His father, the Reverend John Ingersoll, was a minister, sometimes congregational, sometimes Presbyterian, and his mother, Mary Livingston, who died at the age of 36 when Robert was only 2 years old, was a woman of fine and estimable character. His father, however, was a strict disciplinarian who took life very seriously and with the best intentions made things a little solemn for his family, a factor in turning the son against the Orthodox creeds and their caricatures of deity. But according to Ingersoll's own story, it was a generous sense of justice and right that first led him to disbelief. At the age of 8 years old, he heard a minister portray in lurid terms the tortures of the rich man, in vain begging Abraham for a drop of water to cool his tongue, for those who remember that story. The rich man in hell asking for a drop of water from heaven. The sensitive boy was indignant. I got up and went out, he says, knowing in my boyish heart that that was a lie. From that day to this, I have passionately hated every Orthodox creed. His father gave him a sound whipping and then prayed for him for the guidance of the erring. But neither the whipping nor the prayer convinced the boy that human frailties were deserving of eternal torture. And it was just this doctrine of eternal damnation against which the boy had rebelled that was the center of his attacks on the popular faith for as long as he lived. With the opening of the Civil War, his political point of view changed. He believed it his duty, above all else, to help preserve the Union, and since the Republican Party was also determined to keep the country together, he became a Republican and remained so until his death. In 1866, he was appointed Attorney General of Illinois and would have been candidate for governor in 1868 had it not been for his heterodox religious opinions. The delegates were all in favor of him and desired to nominate him if he would promise not to discuss religious issues on the campaign, which he refused to do. In 1877, President Hayes offered him the position of Minister of Germany, but he refused. From this time, he gave himself to the successful practice of law in Washington and later in New York, and although he gained great public reputation as an advocate, he was known to the public chiefly and became sort of a popular idol by his popular platform lectures. He never wrote a book. He was a public speaker solely and published nothing but his lectures. In 1862, he married Eva Parker, daughter of an Illinois farmer whom he adored always, and together they built an ideal home. He had become a man of literary culture. He was an ardent lover of music, in fact, of all the arts. He had a wide and sympathetic affection for his fellows and ended a happy life at Dobbs Ferry on the Hudson, July 21st, 1899. He had heart trouble and knew for 3 years before that the end might come at any moment, but never told any of his family, and thus ended the career of a clean-minded, candid, honest, brave man whose private life was tender, sweet, loving, and peaceful, and whose public career was largely the expression of his own wish, as he once said, to be out on the high seas, to take my chances in the wind and wave and star, and I'd rather go down in glory and grandeur of the storm than to rot in an Orthodox harbor. He was most popularly known as an infidel lecturer who went up and down the land attacking the Christian religion. He had a wonderful influence during the latter half of the 19th century in molding and shaping the religious opinions of men and women and freeing the human mind from the shackles of superstition. Of course, the ideas with which his name is associated and of which he was the prominent exponent were not new, but by his strenuous activity in spreading them and his appealing ability as a lecturer, they became identified with him in the popular mind. And so Ingersoll is looked upon today as the most outstanding opponent of Orthodox religion and the most ardent champion of freedom from superstition that we have ever heard of in this country, if not anywhere in the world. And this is due to the fact that he was a born orator. I believe him to be the most popular orator of his day upon earth and probably of any day. I do not know of any man living or dead who had a mightier or more powerful overall popular audience than he had. And the secret of his power is not hard to find. He was the master of expression, wonderful in his ability to mold and shape words from the utterances that he thought. Besides, he was a poet. His speeches not only wrought gems of thought, but fine-cut jewels of expression, beautiful as flowers, fragrant as lovely ideas. He had what any popular orator must have, a deep, broad sympathy with whatever is human. There is nothing that touched the interest or welfare of mankind that did not find echo in his heart and his brain. People flocked to hear him. Or I should say, he was not popular merely when he dealt with the question of religion. People flocked to hear him and were thrilled with interest, one moment shaking with laughter, another moved with tears, quite as much when he spoke for some form of movement or some literary subject or in a political campaign as when he dealt with religion. In fact, he was once offered a $100,000 a year salary to lecture on Shakespeare at a university, which he turned down. Before I discuss his religious opinions, I think he sacrificed greatly on account of his religious opinions. His infidelity was an expensive thing. Men would not employ him as a lawyer because he was an infidel. Caucuses would not nominate him, and people would not vote for him because he was an infidel. Asked what it cost him to publish his book containing the oration on the gods, he replied, "It cost me the governorship of Illinois." Everybody understood that there was hardly a position, not excluding the presidency itself, that might not have been his if he had been willing to keep still about religion. But when urged to do this, he replied, "It is much more important for me to do what I can to give men light and to break down religious superstition and bigotry than it is to be senator from Illinois or United States minister to a foreign power." And in an age of so much dodging and positioning for effect, let us appreciate the honor and honesty that dared to speak its mind and pay the price. Now, what was his religious position? The thing which he attacked above all was the orthodox belief in hell, because he thought it crushed the human heart, blotted out human happiness, made people afraid to think, turned the brain into a dungeon, and prevented human progress. And in regard to this, let me refer to what I mentioned a moment ago, his sympathy. For this I regard as the key to his character and career. Never a man lived who was more tender, more easily touched, more quickly moved. He was as responsive to all the movements of life and thought about him as the leaves of a tree to the movements of the air. This tremendous power of sympathy turned him into a flaming hatred of anything that seemed to him needless cruelty. So this one great horrible world-shadowing dogma of eternal hate was the thing that he devoted his life to fighting. The cruelty with which the church threatened men after death. What did he believe about God? He felt sure of one thing, that there is no such God as the one taught by the creeds of the Orthodox Church. He once said, "I do not know whether there is a God or not. I live in one of the rural districts of the universe, and I do not know anything about it." He never fought against the idea of God. He fought only against certain partial, unworthy, unworshipful, cruel conceptions of God. So you will find, if you read his lecture on the gods, that he was an agnostic, although he frankly confessed that he could conceive of no God that satisfied either his heart or his brain. That was his attitude. And what was his attitude in regard to the Bible? According to popular opinion, he spent a large part of his time in ridiculing the Bible. But he only ridiculed certain unfounded conceptions of the Bible, which he regarded as standing in the way of human freedom and of the progress of human thought. His idea of the Bible was that of all intelligent people today, that it is the early literature of the Jews, that it is no more sacred than the early literature of any other people, that it was not by any means the foundation of law or morality as taught by the Christians, that it was full of inhumanities like the early literatures of most people, and to use it as an infallible guide to conduct in this enlightened age was to make it the stumbling block of the human race. His Bible, like yours and mine, contained all the worthy literature of all times and of all peoples. What was his attitude towards Jesus? It was practically the Unitarian idea of Jesus. He did not accept a theological Christ. He believed that Jesus of Nazareth was a historical character, but that the Christ of the New Testament was a myth, that it was a legend, not a life. He believed that the historical Jesus was simply the great heretic of his time who tried to bring a new truth to his generation, and for this reason suffered death, that any man who was given his life for what he believed to be truth and for freedom of thought has been one of the world's benefactors. And let me say once and for all, he said, that for the man Jesus I have infinite respect. Wherever a man has died, for man is holy ground. And to that great and serene man I gladly pay tribute of my admiration and tears. He was a reformer in his day. He was an infidel in his time. He was regarded as a blasphemer, and his life was destroyed by hypocrites who have in all ages done what they could to trample freedom and manhood out of the human mind. Had I lived at that time, I would have been his friend. And should he come again, he will not find a better friend than I will be. What did he think about the future life? I shall read only a few sentences which show his belief in this regard. And you will note that here too he is an agnostic, just as we all are when we're frank and honest with ourselves. In his remarks at the grave of a friend's child, one of the most beautiful things I've ever read, he said, "We do not know whether the grave is the end of this life or the door of another. Every cradle asks us whence, and every coffin whether. And the poor barbarian weeping over his dead can answer these questions as intelligently and as satisfactorily as the robed priest of the most authentic creed. The tearful ignorance of the one is just as consoling as the learned but unmeaning words of the other." Again he said, "I have said 1,000 times, and I say again, that we do not know whether death is a wall or a door, the beginning or end of a day, the spreading of pinions to soar or the folding forever of wings, the rise or the set of a sun, or an endless life that brings rapture and love to anyone." And again, "Is man mortal? I do not know, but one thing I do know, and that is that neither hope nor fear, belief nor denial can change the fact. It is what it is, and it will be what it must be." You will note that here again he is an agnostic saying, "I do not know." and expressing his opinion that if there is a future life, the best way to prepare for it is to live a noble life here. And also that it is not dependent upon the acceptance of any creed or upon membership in any organization. It has been said of him that he was merely a destroyer of men's faiths, that he tore down without building up, that he took away a man's religion without giving him anything in return. That is the foolish accusation which is made against any person who teaches something different from that which is commonly accepted. Personally, I do not believe that a person is under any obligation to put something in place of that which one takes away. I do not believe that a man must keep quiet about something which he knows is untrue simply because he does not know what is true. But Mr. Ingersoll was very positive in his teaching. He taught what I persistently teach from this pulpit Sunday after Sunday, a belief in the religion of humanity, a faith in mankind, the courage to depend upon ourselves rather than upon some being in the skies. Listen to this, which was in reality his creed: to love justice, to long for the right, to love mercy, to pity the suffering, to assist the weak, to forget wrongs and remember benefits, to love the truth, to be sincere, to utter honest words, to love liberty, to wage relentless war against slavery in all its forms, to love wife and child and friend, to make a happy life, to love the beautiful in art and nature, to cultivate the mind, to be familiar with the mighty thoughts that genius has expressed, the noble deeds of all the world, to cultivate courage and cheerfulness, to make others happy, to fill life with splendor and generous acts, the warmth of loving words, to discard error, to destroy prejudice, to receive new truths with gladness, to cultivate hope, to see the calm behind the storm, the dawn before the night, to do the best that can be done and then be resigned. This is the religion of reason, the creed of science. This satisfies the brain and the heart. And it ought to satisfy the brain and heart of any normal person. That he preached his religion of humanity in which we believe, let me quote again, "Man should cease to expect any aid from the supernatural source. By this time he should be satisfied that worship has not created wealth, and that prosperity is not the child of prayer. He should know that the supernatural has not succored the oppressed, clothed the naked, fed the hungry, shielded the innocent, stayed the pestilence, or freed the slave." He tells us that he did not worship. He thought it belittling to the conception of God to suppose that he wants that kind of fulsome flattery. But if I had time, I could read you glittering sentence after sentence on this very theme of worship, expressing what he meant by it. Worshiping that which is beautiful, that which is true, that which is high and noble in life, the consecration to duty in the midst of darkness and difficulty and sorrow. If I were to try to find aspects in the life and teachings of Ingersoll, I should have great difficulty. Of course, I could not agree with him politically or economically in many respects, for while he may be classed as a radical in religion, he was very conservative economically and politically. But I do not know one word of positive teaching by him concerning the great questions of human interest that is not noble and fine and true, as healthy as the air, as fragrant and as the lilies of the field. And his life was a fine teaching itself. His relationships with his fellows were based absolutely on justice and right, and his home life was as sweet as a poem. He said, "I believe in the religion of the family, that it is far more important to build a home than to erect a church. The holiest temple beneath the stars is a home that love has built. And the holiest altar in all the world is the fireside around which the family gathers with the sweet babes. But it is said that he had no reverence. It used to be said over and over again that he was so utterly lacking in reverence even for his parents when he attacked their religion. I want to give you his idea of honoring mother and father. He said, "You never can honor your father by going around swearing to his mistakes. You can never honor your mother by saying ignorance is blessed because of ideas she had that were mistaken. I want to honor my parents by finding out more than they did. Suppose the human race had begun back in the Stone Age to honor father and mother in such a way as to consider it wicked to learn anything that they did not know. We would still be in the Stone Age. The best way to honor father and mother is to try to make a better world for their grandchildren to live in." Again, it is said that he was an infidel, but Mr. Ingersoll was indeed a man of splendid, unswerving faith. He had faith in reason. He believed in inquiry and in the search for truth. He believed that all truth is safe. He had faith in right, and it was because of that faith that he denounced wrong, even when he found it in the Bible. He had faith in justice and love, and it was because of that faith that he refused to believe in any God who could hate a part of the human race and create an eternal hell. If our churches had half as much faith in truth and right and justice as Mr. Ingersoll had, this would be a heaven as compared to what the world is today. I have sometimes been asked, what is the cause of a career like Mr. Ingersoll? What threw him into such extreme reaction? Given the teachings concerning God and man and destiny found in the old creed, given the preachers who persist in teaching these old creeds regardless of growing knowledge, and then given a man who thinks for himself, who has a heart that has been touched, who has a sense of justice and who is brave enough to speak out, and you have a man like Ingersoll, the natural necessary reaction against the old creeds. True religion cannot be ridiculed because it is not ridiculous. When we come to estimate the real service of Mr. Ingersoll, in the first place, he did more than anyone else in all the world to popularize the general attitude of the scientific mind toward religion. Ingersoll went up and down the land in every state and union, lecturing night after night to audiences of thousands. The average person learned more about advanced thought from Ingersoll's Why I Am an Agnostic than one could have derived from reading all the works of Herbert Spencer and Charles Darwin put together. In the second place, he startled his generation into thinking. Ingersoll, more than anyone else, compelled men to think whether they wanted to or not. Looking about him, he saw on every hand men holding views of the Bible which had no basis in fact and which fettered their lives. Views of God which made him a tyrant and a monster. Views of man which were in the highest degree depressing. And views of the future which were filled with horror. And he inquired, why do men in this enlightened age continue to believe such things? And he said, I will do what I can to change this. No work can be more important. I will make men think. And he did, by his eloquence, by his wit, by his ridicule, by his retorts, by his scathing denunciations, by his fiery invectives, by his jokes. By his many-sidedness and brilliancy and varied extravagances of his speech, he set tens of thousands to thinking for themselves on religious subjects who had never thought for themselves on these matters before. We may well be grateful for the example of a man who had the courage to think for himself and who dared to speak what he believed true. The popularizing of scientific knowledge, making people think, brought about the third. When he began his anti-theological propaganda, there was a fiendish belief in a literal and everlasting hell. To the Orthodox people of his time, hell was a glaring, scorching, roaring reality. But a remarkable change came over even the Orthodox mind by the time Ingersoll was through. As he himself wrote just before his death, "There is but little left for me to do. The fires of hell have been extinguished. The struggle with superstition is nearly over. We have passed midnight and the great balance weighs up morning." And who had wrought this glorious change? Many people, including thousands of Unitarians and Universalists and Rationalists and free thinkers. But above all these names there stands in seven-hued radiance the name of Robert G. Ingersoll. Of him it has truthfully been said, he sought by constant appeal the truth, reason, mental and moral integrity, physical and intellectual liberty, justice and love, and moreover by personal example in each of all these to make of earth a heaven. But it is his memory's richest reward that he put out the ignorant and revengeful fires of hell. So we cry today, all hail thee, great liberator of the human mind, great extinguisher of human fear, great prophet of human happiness. Thou didst live for posterity. Posterity will remember thee. Thank you.
Okay, please stand and let's sing our last hymn. For all that is our life.
Our benediction today comes from the writings of Jane Addams on the ethical foundation of democracy. The good we secure for ourselves is precarious and uncertain until it is secured for all of us and incorporated into our common life. Amen, blessed be, salam alaikum, and shalom.